Hi everyone, welcome back to Extra Credit, and this is our 8th episode on ancient Greece. So last time we left off, we were on the edge of our seats with King Darius of Persia seething with fury against the people of Athens for the role their city had played in the doomed Ionian rebellion. Determined to bring these insolent criminals under Persian control once and for all, Darius sent his messengers across the Aegean Sea to demand that all of Greece bow down to him or face the consequences. As a token of their submission, each city-state was required to give the Persian messengers a gift of earth and water to symbolize the Persians' lordship over land and sea. Now, after seeing what happened to our poor friend Aristagoras and the unfortunate Ionians, most of the Greeks, as you can imagine, were positively tripping over themselves to hand over the goods. After all, what could possibly be gained by taking a brave but foolish stance against the undefeatable might of Persia? But as you can probably also imagine, there were some Greeks who were crazy enough to resist, among them the people of two particular city-states that you can probably name in one guess. So when Darius's men showed up in Athens demanding earth and water, the Athenians did things at least somewhat democratically by putting the messengers on trial and then throwing them off the Acropolis. Whereas when the messengers showed up in Sparta, well,
this is Sparta!
That happened. So with his rage against the Greeks now burning hotter than a Persian desert, the great King Darius was more determined than ever to teach them a lesson they would never forget. And although he wanted all the Greeks under his thumb, first up on his hit list was most definitely Athens. Which is why, in the fateful year of 490 BC, Darius prepared to steamroll these pesky Democrats with an invasion force consisting of 25,000 foot soldiers and 1,000 cavalry, an army the Athenians could never even hope to match if their lives depended on it. Which they did. When word of the approaching Persian ships reached Athens, you can imagine the chaos it caused, with some people ready to raise the white flag and surrender, but still others determined to dig in their heels and resist. But the one thing they could all agree on was that they needed backup in a big way. And so as the clock ticked down to doomsday and Darius's fleet sailed ever closer, the Athenians did the logical thing and trusted the entire future of their city-state to a guy named Phil. I mean, he is a doctor. No, this Phil, or more accurately Philippides, was actually one of the greatest athletes in all of Athens, a runner who was specially trained to carry important messages over enormous distances without getting tired. For this particular mission, Phil would have to run 150 grueling miles, aka 6 entire marathon races, in as short a time as possible, which in this case turned out to be an astonishing 2 days. And keep in mind, these aren't Manitoba miles we're talking about, these are Greek miles, so yeah. Now, it's probably pretty obvious where Phil was headed on this superhuman sprint. After all, with the fate of Athens hanging in the balance, where else to go than the city-state that was already legendary for its unbeatable army, home of the toughest, fiercest, and bravest warriors in all of Greece. Yeah, don't get too excited. They're gonna say no again. So the excuse the Spartans gave this time, and they do seem to be quite good at giving excuses, was that they currently happened to be in the middle of a festival to the goddess Artemis and would be unable to get away until the next full moon, which was still several days off. Now, as uncool as that sounds, historians agree that the Spartans were genuinely famous for taking their religion seriously, and so this excuse is probably legit. But that's still doesn't stop it falling firmly in the category of, dude, really? Like really? Which meant that our plucky friend Phil had to turn around and run those same 150 miles back to Athens just to tell them no. But hey, on the bright side, at least this time he knew all the good 7-Elevens. But in the meantime, as our brave friend Philippides huffed and puffed his way into the history books with one of the greatest and most futile athletic achievements of all time, the doom of Athens had finally arrived. In the first week of September 490 BC, the Persian invasion force made landfall 26 miles away from the city, at a field whose name was about to become immortal: Marathon. It was here at Marathon that the first official battle of the Persian Wars was fought, and that generations of Greeks would remember as the place that first showed what free citizens fighting on behalf of a free city could truly achieve. Faced with the choice between liberty or death, the Athenian government called up every last one of its hoplite citizen soldiers, a force totaling somewhere around 9,000, less than half of what the Persians were about to throw at them. Marching out to Marathon, the overmatched Athenians set up their camp on a hill overlooking the field, while they watched anxiously as the swarming Persians set up their own camp on the beach below. But as each side dug in and waited for their marching orders, the grossly outnumbered Athenians had at least 3 good reasons to hold on to a shred of hope. The first was that despite their enemies' overwhelming numbers, the Persians were somewhat less intimidating in terms of arms and equipment. Instead of the heavy-duty bronze and iron gear that the Greek hoplites were decked out in, the Persians came much more lightly equipped, with shields in particular that were made of lighter material that was easier to carry, but also easier to break. The second was that the field of Marathon itself was flanked by marshy and rocky terrain that would make it almost impossible for Darius's men to make any use of their cavalry. But what truly warmed the Athenians' hearts and brought a tear to the eye of even the toughest soldier was the sudden arrival of help in the form of 1,000 friendly hoplites from the neighboring city-state of Plataea. The Plataeans may not have been the Spartan strike force that the Athenians were hoping for, but this selfless act of courage and friendship in the face of overwhelming odds earned the Plataeans the undying love and loyalty of the Athenians till the end of their days. Even if the 1,000 extra guys made about as much practical difference as, like, elves at Helm's Deep, i.e., not much. So with the odds locked in at a formidable 2.5 to 1 in favor of Persia, all that remained now was for the commanders to give the word. Now, when it comes to what happened next, things are somewhat unclear, but our friend Herodotus tells us that despite their desperate situation, it was the Athenians who made the extremely gutsy first move. The way Herodotus tells it, the drama centered around 2 of the Athenian commanders, the strategos Miltiades and the polemarch Callimachus. And if that all sounds like a bunch of Greek to you, it is. The word strategos simply means general, and although the Athenians were led by a council of 10 generals, or strategoi for plural, the undisputed leader at Marathon was the one named Miltiades, whose previous experience with the Persians meant that he knew what to expect from them on the battlefield. As the Greek word suggests, it was the job of the strategoi to determine the overall strategy to be used in the battle, as well as, in the case of Marathon, to decide together whether even to fight at all. Callimachus, on the other hand, was the polemarch, meaning war leader, and it was his job to actually carry out the orders of the strategoi by leading the troops on the ground from his position at the far right-hand side of the front line. The reason for this goes back to episode 2, where we learned that hoplites held their shields on their left arm, therefore making the far right-hand position the most dangerously exposed position possible. Just one of the many perks of leadership. But the drama that unfolded in the Athenian camp that morning centered on the strategoi, namely that when it came to the question of battle, 5 of them were ready to fight, and the other 5 ready to flee. Meaning that as polemarch, all eyes now swung to Callimachus to cast the all-important tie-breaking vote. In one of the most stirring moments in his entire book, Herodotus tells us that as the Persians got ready to unleash the wrath of Darius upon the Greeks, Miltiades turned to Callimachus and in no uncertain terms laid out the fateful choice before him. "It is in your power now, Callimachus, to condemn Athens to slavery, or to make her free so that the memory of your name will last the entire span of human existence. Never before have the Athenians faced a graver peril than they do right now. But should Athens prevail, she will surely emerge as the foremost city in Greece. The choice is entirely yours. Everything hangs on you." But like, no pressure, man. Hey everyone, thank you so much for watching Extra Credit once again. Hopefully you're enjoying the series so far and are gonna be okay as I leave you on yet another cliffhanger. This week's pop quiz is, what is the distance between Sparta and Athens? Make sure you drop off your answer in room 215 as usual. As always, work hard, read books, play outside, and we'll see you next time.